What's up everyone, welcome to Drummer's Perspective. My name is Ben Todd and I'm here to help broaden your scope of what's possible as a drummer. Thanks so much for checking out this video here today. Whether you're watching here on YouTube or you're listening on the podcast, I really appreciate you wherever you're coming in from. If you are here on YouTube though, please subscribe to the channel. That definitely does help me out and it lets you know next time I've got a video coming out. Now today, I'm really happy to bring you an interview I've just done with the amazing Paddy Danao. If you don't know Paddy, he's one of Australia's best up-and-coming drummers. He's 28 years old and holding two phenomenal drum chairs at the same time. One of them is with the pop R&B superstar Jessica Mauboy, and the other one is with the absolutely legendary jazz musician James Morrison. Now in this chat, I talked to Paddy about not only how those two gigs came about for him, but just what his approach is when he's jumping between playing this pop R&B stadium arena tour to the small group jazz quartet or big band setting that he plays with James. At the time of this interview, Paddy had just come off the road playing 8 shows plus production rehearsals with Jessica Mauboy. He had one day off in Melbourne, so we did this interview, but the following day he was about to jump onto a plane to fly to New Zealand and play with James Morrison for a series of shows. So Paddy really is living the dream in terms of playing these incredible shows and playing incredible music, but it really does take a certain level of professionalism, musicianship, and dedication to be able to jump between the two contrasting styles so effortlessly. I found this chat super interesting, and I know there's going to be a lot of really great information out there for all of you. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Paddy Danao. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to offer you a free gift, and today that's my 7 ways to attract more work as a drummer PDF guide. If you feel like you're working on all the right stuff, you're seeing improvement in your playing, perhaps you're actually quite established in your local music scene, but still you're not working just as much as you would like to, then this guide is perfect for you. Here I offer you 7 ways to reapproach your development and your progression as a drummer and offer you a fresh perspective on some things you might be able to change in your development to hopefully bring in a little bit more work. The best thing about this guide is that only one of the tactics involves picking up a pair of drumsticks at all. So if you're feeling a little stuck, frustrated, and tired of not being able to be out there working and playing more, then please head to drummersperspective.com/7 ways and grab that free downloadable PDF guide right now. All right, Paddy Danao, thank you so much, man, for being a part of the podcast. I really appreciate it, man. I know you're in the middle of a busy run of shows at the moment, so yeah. I really appreciate you taking.
Wouldn't miss it for the world, man.
Oh, cool! Taking the time of your day off, it's awesome, man. To actually like connect. Like I've been like following you for I mean, it feels like forever actually, like for a long time, and like seeing your growth and progression from like generations in jazz times to what you're doing now. It's mad, man. So yeah.
Thank you so
again.
much.
So for anyone that doesn't know, maybe just say like where you're based and like who you're playing with mostly at the moment.
So I'm currently based in Melbourne, originally from Sydney, but currently playing with Jess Mauboy, and it's been about 10 years, but I've been playing with James Morrison. And then it's just kind of picked up whoever's free.
Yeah, sure.
In between then, and then also just with the opportunities with that James, brings just all the artists that I've worked with alongside James, like Kurt Elling, Paddy Austin, your Kate Sobranos, Emma Pass.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
it's incredible. That's such an impressive like collection of artists, man. All credit to you because you're like 27, is that right?
Yeah, 28 as of last year. Yeah.
Man, that's incredible. And like to have done what you've done, like you certainly like give the music everything that it it needs and more. So it's beautiful to hear you play with all those people, man. But
thank you so much.
I wanted to actually talk about those two contrasting I guess, main gigs you have at the moment.
Yeah.
I would say like Jess Mauboy and James Morrison, like stylistically,
right.
you know, and playing approach, like they're pretty polar opposite. But I would imagine in some ways that there's a bit of crossover there as well. So I guess I first heard you play with James. Yeah. That was like my first introduction to your playing, which sounded phenomenal back then in Generations times. And you're actually one of the first younger guys, young drummers who I like really thought had like small group stuff like down, you know. So
wow, thank you. Yeah.
But now you're playing this incredible, pop R&B gig, you know, arena tours and stadium tours. So like on a social media level, from my point of view, like that's how I've been following you. It seemed like a pretty quick transition from like the jazz thing to like the pop R&B thing, even though I'm sure it wasn't. But how did that kind of come about for you? Like, was that something you always wanted to get into, or was it just something that happened over time?
Yeah. I mean, it's always been a goal of mine to sort of broaden my horizons. And, you know, initially from jazz and whatnot. So, and then just also just looking forward and just the path of music and where it's going. I just wanted to feel, you know, part of it, I guess.
Sure.
And so, you know, I just you know, hung around the right people, and then you kind of get into these circles that sort of bring you these opportunities, and that's how it came about to, you know, play with, Jess and
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Was it like your first like big pop gig is with Jess, or have you done things up to that point?
Kind of dabbled in that sort of genre, like, playing for Seth Sentry. It was sort of like, you know, Aussie hip hop basically, you know. And also like Wafia, who's this California-based Australian artist who's her MD is Justin Bieber's MD. So it's kind of like it's just in that world. Yeah. And it all sort of just like culminated into this gig that I'm on now. So
That's amazing, man. And so when you were like in the jazz world, like when you started playing with James and kind of going down that path, did you think at any point like, okay, this is what I'm going to do now, or were you always kind of thinking of the next thing? Like,
I mean, initially the goal was just like, let's just get into James's band and see what happens. And it's just like he's brought me all around the world and that's like amazing. It's the dream, right?
Oh yeah.
But obviously when you get older, you just start to think, you know, future plans and just kind of had to sort of look at the landscape of the music and kind of reassess like where can I, you know, sort of share my skills or where can I grow as well? Because, you know, we're all always growing as musicians and people. So, that was sort of like the next path for me, was just go down a completely opposite route to the whole jazz thing. And, man, still going strong.
Yeah, man,
still
exactly.
learning every day. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like we're always learning, but it takes someone like pretty wise to kind of look at music on a bigger picture rather than just like, you know, as I would think a lot of musicians might think like, cool, I got this gig now playing with this incredible jazz artist. This is just what I'm going to do for, you know, the rest of my life. But you're like, no, like music might be going a different direction. I might want to try something things, even when you're young. So man, all credit to you. That's takes a lot of guts and determination and drive.
Thank you so much.
Take those steps. But that's really cool. So I guess we'll go back a little bit. I want to ask like how the two gigs came about, like the first gig with Morrison, like how did that work out where he's like, be in my band and tour the world? and then with Jess as well, like was that like an audition thing? Was it a recommendation thing?
Totally. So Yeah, well, with James, it kind of started. Well, it started all with the Generations and Jazz Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, well, actually, let's go before. I was living in Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
and I was pretty much I had my eyes set for the con, doing the jazz course, audition and everything. And then I just all of a sudden got a call from John Morrison, who's just like one of my sort of heroes back in the Sydney scene. He was sort of like he saw me play a few times in like my year 12 sort of HSC years, and being in the like New South Wales Jazz Orchestra and whatnot, and kind of put forward the opportunity to study with James's sons, and that kind of just like perked up my thing. I was just like, whoa, like this is like a pure connection to the James thing. This could be my way in. And so I was like, hang on, I'll just like make it my goal to get into his band one day. So we did a year of the academy. Then James turned it into a whole bachelor course, being the James Morrison Academy. And then in my second year, it was probably like halfway through the year, it was like, hey, got this gig in Singapore. We'll fly there for 4 nights. We'll do a 10-minute gig. And you just got to play your ass off. That was basically it. Yeah. So
That's
that
amazing.
was just like, that was just the most stressful but most rewarding sort of 10 minutes of my kind of music career at that point. And just all of a sudden, just after that, it was just like, we're ready. Let's bring on the tours, the gigs. So it's just like, let's do this thing. Let's build something.
So do you think that was kind of like an audition trial, like for you,
totally,
like a professional touring sense? Like, as I'm sure you would have played with James, at the school, but like, if you're like, okay, let's go do like an actual, real, legit tour just to see how you operate. Yeah,
touring, like, like obviously boarding the flights on time, making your lobby calls, like it was just all. We were just being assessed like the whole way through, not partying too hard and not, just like making a fool of yourself for the 4 days that you're in Singapore. That's like, and then just like rocking up to the gig on time, sound check, being on the downbeat, and then just like, laying, just playing the music, being there in the moment. It was all part of it. And, I was just lucky enough to be around his sons, who are like my mates, just like going up through the academy and learning with each other, like, that we just had each other, like, look, we can, if we just be professional about it, we can make something of it. And
sure, man. Wow, that's so great. How interesting, man. Like that's quite an audition, like that whole thing. But you're right, man. I mean, what other, like, I can't think of a better way to like, from a band leader point of view, to try someone out in turn, like, apart from doing something like that, where like it's like a one-off gig, but like, it set the foundation for you to literally travel the world and play with these phenomenal other artists as well. So man, great job. So cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then the Jess gig, how did that thing work out?
So that one worked out. Well, I moved to Melbourne in 2019. Was sort of trying to start something, gain some momentum in the scene. All of a sudden COVID happened, and we got out, and my first gig, it was just I was just supporting this guy called Billy Davis, who's the current MD for Jess now, and we sort of got in talks there, did a few gigs here and there, kind of built up the reputation of, like, being one of the up and coming MDs of the country and having his own sound as well, sort of more the gospel American sound. And then, as of middle of last year to this opportunity came about where, Jess wanted to sort of do a little change up on her team and brought on board Billy Davis. And I just so happened to be in the firing line of Billy, having played gigs with him consistently throughout the last 2 years. And it was sort of the same thing, kind of like an audition session. We were just brought in, learned these 2 songs from her new album that weren't released yet. And it was, we were just kind of lined up, keyboard, bass, drums, guitar, and then just Jess right there. But being Jess, she was just like super lovely about it. And we just like played through the 2 songs, they're just like simple pop songs, but there was just something about it, it's when we play these songs, it's got to mean something. And so,
sure. Yeah.
That was sort of our audition process in that. And, afterwards she was just, really keen on our vibe and how we sort of showed our voices in her songs, which is pretty cool, right? Because we're all individual artists in our own right, but it's kind of cool that we can sort of share our personalities through her songs, and she really dug that. And
man, that's that in itself is pretty rare, to have an artist like her playing that the pop R&B thing, and still encouraging the musicians to like put something forward and bring themselves to the table. That's super cool, man. Wow. And do you know if any other drummers were going for that gig, or was it like just pretty much just they kind of want you, but let's just make sure kind of thing?
It was like because it's sort of how it runs is it's all on the MD, the musical director, and he or she sort of like kind of sets the roster. And it sets his a team kind of thing. And so it was always going to be like us as a collective, because he just saw us, being able to gel with each other.
I see.
Super well for the gig. So it was either us or someone else, basically. So
I see.
It was kind of a cooperative team effort to go through the audition process and be like, this will be a really good opportunity to have.
Cool. So it was more, like the band itself, like a band audition. Yeah, cool, man. That's
pretty
great.
Much, yeah.
Wow, smart to bring a whole collective in, to have a pre-existing gel going on. Yeah. Cool, man.
It just made it easier for Jess to sort of integrate with us, because we were like, come, you should join us. This is a vibe kind of thing, and that's just made the transition a lot easier for her, because she is quite a loyal person. So, we just wanted to make sure she was just, comfortable and
Definitely. Wow, man, that's so great. So what would you say your percentage of work with those 2 artists are throughout the year? Was it 50-50 pretty much, or?
It's definitely climbing up with the Jess stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Just because she's sort of ramping up in the scene again. People are being like, well, just, I feel like they've forgotten about her in the past few years, and it's with the release of her new album and this whole tour that we have 20 plus shows of, it's kind of reignited her her reputation, and it's beginning to ramp up. So, but it's always been James at the forefront for me, because we've just been doing it for so long. It is a bit of a challenge now. It's there's just dates coming, left and right, and just trying to handle this balancing act now.
Yeah, sure.
Which is a challenge. And I'm still trying to figure it out myself. So
yeah, that's a great problem to have when you're kind of too in demand. Like that's awesome, man. But it can be tricky. So I mean, I'm always curious with like players like yourself that are doing such varied gigs. Like, first of all, the shift, like the physical shift, is one thing of playing, like small group jazz to like, a bit more harder hitting pop R&B stuff.
Yeah.
But that mental switch as well, that's the whole thing. And I've heard interviews with drummers who have said like, it's there's this bit of a false illusion like that the awesome drummers can just play a small group thing and then they play a huge rock thing and then just like go back and forth. Like it takes a bit of time to like get back in that headspace or into that physical way of like how you approach the instrument again. So I'm curious to hear like your approach in that. Like, do you find like if you're going to go, you're doing these run of shows with Jess and then you're going to jump into like like a recording session or something with James, like do you try and give yourself like a few days just to like shed back in that style, or are you pretty comfortable kind of jumping between?
I mean, I definitely put in the shed times just to I'm still kind of new to it as well, so I'm still trying to explore the best ways to go about it. Actually, a really good test is this week. I fly to New Zealand tomorrow with James. Cool. And I've just like had 8 shows of Mauboy and production rehearsals and whatnot. So I'm kind of going in it just like with no shedding, but lots of just listening. Yeah. And just like being back in the feeling that like, feeling that jazz, feeling, that whole vibe that that it brings us, and just hoping just come downbeat, that it just like comes out, because that's how it's always been with James as well. Like because he's always one that's just never like warmed up, and I've always just been like, whoa, like how does he do that? And for these whole like last 10 years, I've just been in that kind of trying to be in that mindset of being like, there's nothing to worry about. Like
just turn it on and it's there. Yeah.
I'm just playing games with myself, and I can just, like when I rock up to that bandstand, it'll just all be there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just trying to practice that, have been for the last 10 years, but just seeing it from someone who's just done it for the last 30 plus years, it's kind of helps. So,
I mean, I think that's that's a very true thing you say, like, because you've got so much history with James and playing in that world, so much of it is ingrained already, so whereas maybe the jazz thing is a little newer, so that's more of a shift to go into that, but like to go back to the jazz thing, maybe it's a bit more muscle memory. But yeah, that's interesting. But I know what you say about James, man. I played with him. Well, I played with him like at Generations and a couple of other things. But he's just one of those effortless musicians. Can just like pick up anything and it's just all there. Like the facility is there, the musicality is there. Just like, whereas I feel, I mean, I still certainly struggle with it, and a lot of younger guys as well. I think like to get into a world or to get into a vibe of a certain style or genre, like sometimes it takes a minute to like, okay, where are we? Okay, now we're good to go. But he's just one of those guys that, I mean, I think a lot of like great musicians are like that, but to see that firsthand, like you have for the last 10 years, that's a very cool thing to like try and draw some energy from.
So that's sort of just what I'm trying to put into practice is I have a bit of downtime right now, and I could go into the shed and just practice a few licks here and there and whatnot, play some time for a few hours. But like, I mean, I could be just spending that time, like hanging out with friends and just like being a human being, a person.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's what I'm seeing from James. He's just, lots of family time, or he'll be building houseboats or whatnot or something. And then just all of a sudden just like rock up to a gig and just like,
Shred.
Yeah, absolutely shred.
Yeah.
So I think the only way to do that is just to operate in that way. And I know it's not the standard way, but hey, let's see where
I think that's the thing. Like everyone's different, and there's so much to be said for giving yourself like a breather and time and and room in your life to take in other influence that's not music, like you say, if that's hanging out with friends or like having a hobby or whatever that might be, to like just give your mind a bit of a reset so that when you do go to play music again, it's from a bit more of a place of like, unclouded, judgment or vision. So it just comes a bit more effortlessly. But that's huge, man. But I think like you only really get to experience that and know what it's like when you are doing the gigs that you're doing right now, where you're living that thing of like coming off the back of like, eight shows and rehearsals with this pop R&B thing, and then like getting on a plane the next day to go to do a small group thing. That's the gig then, man. And you do what you can do, and I mean, I'm sure you'll just nail it, of course. Cheers, interesting, like what you're saying about listening, because I was going to ask you like when you're kind of going between the two gigs, are you conscious of like, trying to keep your chops up in the other thing? But you mentioned it just about listening, which is, that's huge. Yeah, for sure. If you don't have physical time to play, like just listen to,
Like, in between all the Just Mauboy shows, like, when we're in transit going from show to show, obviously just like pop on some jazz just to like, man, like, just tickle my senses a bit.
And, what are you listening to? What was the last few things?
Oh, me? Well, I actually just got a piano, like my sort of childhood upright piano in my house. So I just really want to like shed piano right now. So I'm listening to a lot of piano players, like just the classic your Horace Silvers and your Cedar Waltons, your Phineas Newborns, just like all that.
Amazing.
Cool, classic jazz stuff.
Classic stuff.
Cool. That's also sort of like part of it as well. Like putting aside drums and diving into all the other instruments that I love, like obviously the whole rhythm section, guitar, bass, and drums. Piano, sorry. Because that sort of like puts me in another space.
That's interesting,
and I feel that helps in a way, sort of when I am on the bandstand, just like feel comfortable with my surroundings, because I sort of understand, like what's around me. So
totally,
that also helps a lot.
So have you played those instruments for forever, or are they things?
Pretty much,
yeah. Wow, cool.
Yeah, no, I've pretty much played piano, bass, guitar, sax, and whatnot since I was like 6 to 8 years old. Like, sort of picked it up then.
That's great.
So
I had no idea. I mean, it kind of makes sense now. Like, I think about how you play and like how open your ears are. Like, it seems like you're coming from that point of view of like having the actual background of being a multi-instrumentalist. Which I think that's huge, man. I highly encourage anyone who is
definitely
playing drums to play something else as well. Just to, not be necessarily like be able to go and play a gig or whatever, but just to have some kind of mutual understanding of the other musicians you're playing with. That's huge.
Definitely.
So that kind of leads me on to the next thing I wanted to ask you about, and that's like how you view like the climate of being a professional drummer these days. Like, like how important do you think it is to to diversify, like not only like on your instrument, like with other instruments, but like stylistically, obviously you're doing a really diverse range of gigs. But is there anything else that you think is important, like to be like a successful professional drummer these days?
Yeah, well, especially these days with the whole technology advancement in live shows, like playback is like one of the biggest things now, especially if you want to work with, the sort of higher echelon, even sort of, your up and coming sort of label artists. They just have this standard of like, hey, do you have playback tracks? Can you operate this? Can you build this? Can you build that? That's sort of a skill that's like, it's kind of like a prerequisite now for not only just a musician, but it would help, as a drummer as well, just to have your sort of head around it. I sort of got roped into that a few years back, having the question asked, like, oh, can you run tracks? And I'm like, can I run tracks? Like what, through an SPD or something? Like, but no, there's like a whole world of it, like setting up redundancy and like having to play audio and all that stuff. So, I just had to put the time in, put the investment into to get my head around that stuff, and it's really bode well for the kind of jobs that I'm getting now. And I can see that sort of being what's ahead of us.
Sure.
So that's a big thing to
man, you're certainly not the first person to say that. Like, it's just becoming more and more of a common thing that's coming up. But like, so how did you go about doing that? Like, for younger drummers out there who keep hearing like, oh, I need to get into like programming on Ableton and tracks and stuff. Like, how would you suggest someone like learn about that, or what should they do? Like, what equipment should they have? Like,
well, I'm just kind of the millennial I am. I just go on YouTube.
Sure. No, that's great. Yeah.
Will from that, like, what's it called? The Will Doggett. He's just an amazing source of knowledge for this stuff. He's basically like the playback king. Sort of focuses on like the worship side of things, but has like delved into like your big kind of pop shows and whatnot. So just going through he does have courses as well that I've sort of tapped into, and then obviously just like the people around you, you just sort of just share knowledge with each other, and obviously put it into practice as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is the most important thing. I've had shows that have fallen into absolute train wrecks, and you just have to go through those experiences, and you just learn. Or especially for me, I just learn so much more quicker that way, and not too sure, like, it's still new for me, and I'm still exploring it as well. So definitely the way I sort of got into it was just exposing myself to the people that do it. Will Doggett is the one for me. Yeah,
that's great, man. No, that's awesome, because I think any kind of like little hints of direction for this kind of stuff is great, because there's like I said, there's just becoming more and more common now. So the more it can be shared is the better. But that's cool. So are you running tracks on this gig at the moment, or that's coming from
for the Mauboy gig?
Yeah, cool.
Running tracks. I like didn't build the whole show, but like sort of did the post sort of like editing and whatnot. So it kind of runs well with what I'm playing and whatnot and stuff. But we do have a dedicated playback engineer for the run.
Okay.
So yeah, that's cool. That's a whole lot off my plate, which is great. I love
Yeah.
that.
Hands off. Yeah, yeah.
But yes, we are running tracks to this one with the whole time code thing,
Yeah.
going to the LD to the lighting desk, and yeah, it's a whole show, which is
Yeah.
super exciting to be a
Big
part of.
production.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
And I would imagine, like, again, just looking at the two contrasting things of the Morrison thing and the Mauboy thing, like the rehearsal periods would be quite different. I would
oh
imagine.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Like
I don't imagine you're like
non-ex-
rehearsing for the gig, in New Zealand.
yeah,
Versus like
non-existent at all. It's
pre-production
like,
time.
oh,
Yeah.
so are we playing this song? Yeah, let's play this
Yeah.
song. Okay,
Cool. Yeah.
done.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
But
great.
the Just Malware thing, was that how long was that pre-production rehearsal process? Learning
Yeah,
songs,
so
all
we
that?
were, well, we were given the songs about 3 months to 2 months in advance. Well, actually, we were lucky enough to do like have already a majority of the songs for the set already handled, and just we've played those shows like last year. So yeah, not it was more so for the new songs on the album. There was a few of them that were brought into the set. Yeah, we were given those arrangements sort of like 2 months beforehand. Just trying to, get a grasp of what it was, and also, send it out to the lighting designer to sort of design the whole show for us. But coming into production rehearsals, we had sort of like a week of that. So we were allocated sort of 2 days of just dedicated band rehearsals, just us sort of kind of feeding off each other your ideas, like, oh, we should add a hit here, or like, oh, we should change this up, like maybe bring down the dynamic or something, or like, hang on, we should like transition from this song to this song to this song. Yeah.
Cool.
So that was sort of happening in that session. And then we brought in the girls, the BVs and Jess, to sort of see where we were at, and we were at a good place at that point, just running the set and whatnot. And then straight into like a full production day of rehearsals. So, front of house, all the rises and the placement of where we were, our gear that we were going to use for the tour. The drum kit and my setup, and set up, like the mixes for our ears and front of house, and sort of do a full run of the show for that day, and then sort of did another one of those the following day, alongside with choreography, marking out like what the girls would do on stage, and sort of completing the show on that day. And then just like a few full show runs on that day as well, and then straight to the gig like 2 days after.
Wow. And that was all set up like in a venue, like somehow, like a rehearsal?
Rehearsal sort of space. We'll just sort of set up like how we would be on stage, which is really great, because you could just, like just be comfortable with your space and your surroundings and who was to the right, to the left of you, because it does impact the way you sort of go about the gig, just like your surroundings and being in the moment of that first show, like, and having all that adrenaline with you. Just having been in that position for the past week, it's sort of smoothed that experience for us, which was really helped. And,
that's great, man. Yeah, you're not going in like being, hopefully, like with as few like distractions and surprises as possible. So focus on the music.
Very, very minimal as possible.
Yeah. So, what was like a typical day like for you on this last run of shows? Like, were you doing like one-nighters in cities, or? It
was pretty much all one-nighters. So we started with like a Victorian run in Traralgon was our first show. It was basically just like a load in for the production team. We had like a full semi trailer worth of just like all our gear, the risers, lights, everything. They'd load in like around like 9:00 a.m. And lucky for us, we got to roll in at around like 3 p.m. For just a little sound check. We also did like a quick show run on that first day just to sort of like freshen it up a bit and just like have it all under our belt. But a typical show there was just like kind of rock up at 3:00 p.m. for just like a little quick sound check. For the bigger shows like Sydney and Melbourne, it was kind of new for me, but like there was like a VIP sound check that Jess does, which they just had brought in like VIP guests, and we've sort of put a show on, a little show, a sound check show, which was it's a bit of a weird one, but it was kind of cool. Like just like having her mega fans just there, and she'd just be like just having a yarn with them, and then like straight into a song, just like cool. So cool. So that was a kind of a new experience for me.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
cool.
So, but
that's cool.
Pretty cool show.
Pretty chill,
day,
Okay, great, man. I mean, well, I think that's it when you're on the big production things, and there's just this whole like machine of people and infrastructure that just make it all happen, and really just have to worry about playing. That's like the ultimate, man. That's
the dream, right?
Yeah. So I guess for like younger drummers, for anyone really, like what can you remember like working on or shedding when you were younger that you're like using like every day in these gigs, whether it's Morrison or Jess? Like, is there anything specific that you are like, I'm glad I put time into like working on this back in the day?
Definitely the metronome work.
Yeah.
So metronome and pad work. That's like that's
like just rudimental stuff and exercise. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, because it just translates to everything. Like, obviously with the James stuff, it's just like the bread and butter of the heroes that we listen to, like all the comping ideas and whatnot, and what they're playing, just their hands, the fluidity, definitely is just number one for me. Like snare work is just like that's the key to for me to just being an all-round drummer.
That's awesome.
And
cool.
together with the metronome as well, because that's so integral to what the Jazz Show is about. Because like it's an hour and a half show, and you're on click for the whole hour and a half. So, and you cannot budge at all. Like there's no room for that, or else you're fired.
Exactly. Yeah.
So definitely those two sort of aspects of drumming kind of that's all it is for me. Yeah, pad work and the metronome.
How interesting that is like maybe lesson one of like learning how to play drums.
Not even being behind the drum kit. It's just like just that day one, that lesson one.
That's huge, man.
It's so integral.
Yeah, I mean that's so great to hear it from you. Like as I said, you're living that dream like a lot of drummers would love to do. Playing this awesome jazz gig and this awesome pop gig, but to hear like the important things are like metronome and snare drum exercise and pad work. That's great, because I think that's what people need to hear, and it's
totally
not the most quote unquote fun things to work on, but like if it's directly translating to you being able to have like a successful career and play great music, then that's I mean you can't really argue with that. That's great.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And what about now? Like, is there anything now that you're working on that you're trying to like get better at or develop, or like where's your like drumming kind of trajectory at the moment?
Well, it's definitely kind of taken a bit of a pause at the moment, just because of like the projects that I'm in right now. Sort of the music's kind of taking the forefront, and that's what it's always been for me. It's I've sort of like, obviously I've just put in the time since I was 5 years old, having lessons with pretty much my life coach, Milan Troja. Do you know the Milan in Sydney maybe?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it was actually cool. We just had like a surprise dinner for him the other night. Oh, cool. And like, all the Sydney greats like Gordon Rittmeister and
great.
Like Pete Marrow and all that stuff. We just got together and had a little celebration for him. But like, he sort of, since my age of like 5, I've just obviously just put in the time in to lay down the technical work to sort of have me set up for where I am right now, where just the music will kind of steer sort of where my drumming will be at. And obviously like taking on board the Jess Mauboy gig, and having this flavor of like the gospel American sound thing. That's sort of like where I've been trying to develop my sort of skills and my vocab in. Is just like like listening to these drummers, these American sort of gospel drummers, and seeing what they have to say in like a pop song with like just a bunch of hits just every second bar. It's like and sort of how they orchestrate that and translate that into the drums, into the kit. So that's sort of like what I've been working on lately, to prepare myself for the Mauboy gig.
Yeah. Anyone in particular that you're like, that you kind of gravitate towards? Like,
definitely. Yeah. There's 2 in mind. There's Rex Hardy Jr.
Yeah, cool.
Who's sort of like he's been the drummer for Mary J. Blige for the longest time, like since the early 2000s, I think. He's just always been one that I've looked up to, just because he's lived through this kind of uprising of the gospel and the pop sound, sort of taking over the whole live scene in America. So he's always been one that I've sort of looked up to. And then as of late, there's been a guy called CJ Thompson, who's again, just like grown up through the gospel scene, having like 2 parents that are like Grammy award winning gospel musicians and singers in their own right, and just like the amount of just music knowledge that he's soaked up, and now translating it into big shows like Tamia and Joe and Charlie Puth, who I got the opportunity to see last year, their live show, and how they operated that was just absolutely mind-boggling.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I sort of those are the 2 sort of kind of heroes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, they're incredible players. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool, man. So, I kind of want to wrap it up like with a couple of things. Like,
for sure.
As I said, you guys, you're living like the dream. I think a lot of younger guys will, any drummer really would want to do. So what's some advice for people you think like who want to get into the higher level touring thing? Like, whether that be playing or networking or like physical location? Like, do you think it's important, like where you live, that kind of thing? Like any.
Yeah. Well, pretty much everything you've acknowledged there, like, the networking, all that stuff. But I think to me, it's more so I think what people forget about is actually the musicianship and the professionalism. Like,
sure,
that's most of the game, honestly.
Sure,
like,
sure.
yeah, you can be like the best player, but like, are you really like, showing up to sound checks and rehearsals on time? Are you putting in the work, the preparation for the rehearsals? Maybe not. But
sure.
if you are, then it'll lead you to these opportunities. I feel that's what I think. So,
sure. Yeah.
Right. Just
Man.
just that. Yeah.
Just being a good person, being on time.
Just being a good person. Yeah. Being a good hang.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like that. That honestly, like, is what sort of turns down people with these like kind of bigger gigs, is just like not vibing with the energy of the band or just the team around them. Because that's, like we're on stage for like like an hour, two at max, or something like that. But for the rest of the day, it's just a hang. And that has to be in a good place first before all this, all the music can happen, basically. So
for sure. Wow.
Yeah, that's sort of what I want to push out to just everyone out there.
That's awesome.
Who's trying to, like go through the scene, is professionalism. Like, it'll get you far.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's so great. Yeah, man. Wow. Again, coming from you, like you're living it, so you know for sure what's working, what's not. Yeah. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so great. Like, like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're super busy.
Thanks, man.
and doing all this stuff. So this has been awesome. But like, where can people follow you and check out what you're doing? And like, we'll come and see you play. You're on tour still in Australia, and
absolutely, yeah. I've got a website that you can check out that's got all my gigs. It's just patrickdanao.com. Pretty simple. And it's just like pretty updated list of where I am at at any point in time. So just check out that, and obviously you can follow me on Instagram, Patty on the drums. I tend to post every now and then, but yeah.
Cool.
I hope to see any of you at a gig some point, and just talk life and drums. That's what I love doing. Yeah.
Awesome. Absolutely. Well, dude, thank you so much again. This has been great.
So much, man.
And we'll hopefully get to hang out in person sometime soon.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, man. For sure. All right, you take care.